Derby Wars, racing's biggest contest site, is now even bigger with more than 200 games every day. Check out Survivor, Derby Wars' hottest new game. It's fun, easy to play, and for just $4 you could win $1,000. Just pick a horse to finish first, second, or third and advance to the next race. With daily payouts and games starting every hour, you'll see why fans are racing to play Survivor. Go to DerbyWars.com now, use promo code Survivor to get 5 free Survivor games with your first deposit.
Welcome to another edition of HorseCenter, everyone. I am Brian Zipsy, and as always, I have the terrific pleasure of being joined by my co-host to the East Coast. That's Matt Shipman. How are you today, Matt?
I'm great, Brian. Time flies when the Kentucky Derby is nearing.
Oh, we got months yet, Matt. Month. Oh, wait a minute. No, we don't have months anymore. Just a few weeks now, 2.5 weeks or so. Kentucky Derby time, folks. We're talking Derby with you. Matt and I are going to unveil our brand new top 10s. I don't know about you, Matt, but my top 10 has changed more this year over the weeks leading up on this Kentucky Derby trail than probably any other year. But I'm getting pretty confident that the 2 horses that I've had a lot near the top are going to be my top 2. How about you, Matt?
Well, Brian, they certainly have changed a lot during the year, but they kind of have come full circle.
Full circle, that's right. We've had a lot of bounce backs. Horses that have had setbacks have come back to the forefront. Other horses that looked good a month or two ago have kind of fallen off a little bit, although maybe they'll bounce back in the Kentucky Derby, Matt. This is a year where we just don't know, but this is a year where maybe long shots will have a place. So I know I put some long shots in my top 10, Matt. You want to jump right in? I want to know, Mr. Schiffman, who your number 1 Kentucky Derby horse is right now.
My number 1 is the horse that I guess since last year I have felt is the most talented horse in the crop, and that is Classic Empire. He's had his woes. They seem to have overcome them. I got to give him credit to go to Arkansas off of a 2.5 or so month layoff and win the Arkansas Derby on a track that he's never been on, going 1 1/8, and to battle it out and come up with a win off of that layoff. I was impressed. He was well behaved. Doesn't mean that some of the problems that Classic Empire has had in terms of his composure, doesn't mean that they might not show up again, but I'm not in control of that, Brian. But all along, I think Classic Empire is the most talented horse. He's redeemed himself. He's my number 1.
Fair enough, Matt. Classic Empire is certainly one of the best horses in this crop. He's won 3 Grade 1 races. He was the 2-year-old champion. Now he's an Arkansas Derby winner, Matt. Yeah, we were all impressed with the Arkansas Derby, although he only beat Conquest Mo Money. That was my long shot in the race, by the way. He only beat Conquest Mo Money by 1/2 length. There were 5 horses within, I believe it was 2 1/4 lengths at the finish. So it was a strong performance, and one where, he was kind of bottled up in between horses a little bit, and then he got outside and he kept coming. A strong performance. Now, if he bounces off that performance at all after the layoff second time back, I worry. I worry that took a little bit out of him. 10 furlongs. 10 furlongs, maybe yes, maybe no for me. I do see this as a Kentucky Derby where it could be a little bit of stagger down the stretch, Matt. There is going to be some speed, it looks like. And Classic Empire generally closer than some of the horses I have up there on my list. But certainly it was good to see the champ back. It was a nice performance. And if he improves off that one, if he needed that one and he improves, certainly he's one of the major players. Last year, I liked Not This Time best for the Derby. This year, I thought maybe Mastery was the most talented horse I saw. But Classic Empire has been the horse that's been there all along, top horse since last summer. So it's nice to see him going into the Kentucky Derby. Is he going to be the favorite, Matt?
Well, Brian, that's a tough question. At this point, there's 2.5 weeks of morning chat and hype to the hype machines will be going over the next couple weeks. I mean, I think clearly the favorite is going to come from Classic Empire, Always Dreaming, or McCracken. I think those three are going to be very close together, and we'll have to see what happens with Little Things. But a little more on Classic Empire. I look at the Arkansas Derby as he did enough to get the win off that layoff. I'm not looking for a bounce here, that kind of thing. I'm looking for him to have needed that race and improve off of there.
He very well could. It was a long layoff, and now he has a shorter layoff. So, or really no layoff at all. It's a shorter spread until the Derby. He's only 3 weeks, which, of course, going back years doesn't seem like much of a worry. But yeah, if the performance took something out of him, that's probably my thinking a little bit. And maybe closer to the pace is something I don't love this year. My number one, Matt, is McCracken. Classic Empire arrived at Churchill Downs. McCracken's been here for a little while. In fact, I was out at Churchill Downs, saw him work a nice 4 furlongs this morning. McCracken did not win his last prep, and that's been the winning formula in recent years, although there's been a lot of horses who have not won their last prep and won the Kentucky Derby. In fact, trainer Ian Wilkes has been around horses like that. He knows horses. He's worked with horses that have won the Kentucky Derby after losing their last prep. I'm talking about Unbridled and Street Sense. So McCracken, I think he didn't want to empty the bottle too much in the Bluegrass after needing that race as well. So maybe he had an easier race in a losing performance in the Bluegrass than Classic Empire did. I also think McCracken has the ability to rally just a little bit more than Classic Empire. I like McCracken. He's my number one, Matt. But if it is a stagger fest and horses are struggling the last quarter mile, if this is not the best Kentucky Derby crop we've seen in recent years, which I'm kind of thinking that's true, and there is a lot of speed, I also like my number two quite a bit, and that's Guna Vera, who I know will be running late.
Yeah, Brian, and hey, look, I like McCracken too. I like everything that you said about the horse. And if there is a trainer and a profile that I agree with, it's what you said. I thought he ran a nice race in the Bluegrass, and his third place doesn't bother me, considering you talked about Ian Wilkes' history, and McCracken is the kind of horse that doesn't get in trouble, at least in his recent races. He does the right things. I feel like he's going to be in a good position throughout the Derby. He's a horse that takes care of himself. You mentioned your number two, Guna Vera. That's a horse whose last performance I didn't really like. He really didn't show much in the Florida Derby. I don't really like his past performance where he's run a big race, run a race not so good, bounced back with another big win, not so good, and now he's coming off a performance I didn't like in the Florida Derby, looking to bounce back in the toughest race there is, the Kentucky Derby. Is he going to be making a move at the end? Is he going to be passing horses at the end? Yeah, I think so, but Brian, I don't love him to win. Am I going to use him in exotics? Yeah, probably. I'd be foolish not to. For me, my number two is Always Dreaming. Another horse, all those kind of things you said about Classic Empire might apply here in terms of getting the distance and being close in the stalking position, which has been the running style in the last 3 years that has won the race from a stalking position. Always Dreaming's last 3 races have been good and very good and even better. He's got a lot of time off. Is he going to get even better? He'll need to win the Derby.
Yeah, I think he will need to, Matt. Certainly, if you're looking at potential of these horses, Always Dreaming very well may lead the list. If not, he's very close to leading the list. He certainly looked good in his Florida Derby. Yeah, I do worry that it was a big move up to the Florida Derby for him, and now he's going to try to make another move up or close to another move up. Maybe if he runs his Florida Derby performance, that could be a winning race in the Kentucky Derby. I wonder what we're talking about here. It looks like on paper so far, we don't know how, of course, all the 20 horses will shake out, but it looks like there's going to be a lot of pace, and maybe horses of questionable overall quality. That makes me think that a pace collapse is imminent in the Kentucky Derby. Always Dreaming, I would suspect he's closer to the pace. And frankly, if he's not close to the pace, I would worry about that as well, because he really hasn't had much adversity thrown his way. He's either been on a lead or close to the lead in these races. And I wonder what's going to happen with a fast pace, with a crowded field. If he's on the lead, that's going to be tough to stay there. And if he's farther back, he's never experienced anything like that before. So I think Always Dreaming, for those reasons, and the odds, man, you see that I have him down my list a little bit, down at number 6. Always Dreaming is obviously a big talent. But with the odds, I have to play him a little bit less, or put him down my list a little bit less, because I'm not going to be using Always Dreaming a lot. Now, Guna Vera, I love the Florida Derby, frankly. That sounds strange because he was a well-beaten third, but it was a race he didn't need to win going in. Gulfstream Park is probably not the best track for Guna Vera's running style. The Fountain of Youth was a huge performance. And then the Florida Derby, considering it wasn't his best performance, the fact that he's rallying the entire stretch just speaks to me as far as what he's going to do at a 1.25 mile Churchill with a fast pace. Guna Vera is a must-use for me. I do have Classic Empire down at number 3, just on overall class. Matt, I noticed we have some different horses now going down the list here, but we both have Hence, number 5, and this is a son of Street Boss. He's a Calumet Farm homebred trained by Steve Asmussen, who's won a lot of races in America, but has never won the Kentucky Derby yet. Hence is an interesting horse, don't you think?
I think so, Brian, and I starting to get a little bit more buzz and a little bit more buzz. Everybody listens to you, Brian Zipsy. I think you were the first one on Hence bandwagon, but henceforth, there's been a great deal of chatter, maybe the wise guy horse of this Derby. But like you said, Brian, if we're going to have a pace collapse, then I got to like Hence. He ran a big closing race in the Sunland Derby, rallying from 10th position in a field of 11 to gobble up that field on a racetrack that, you don't really expect a big closing move to win it. Had nice amount of time off, a horse that could be getting better. And even though Asmussen hasn't won the Derby, his team knows how to get horses ready for a big race. So Hence is the kind of horse that I like on trifecta tickets, the superfecta tickets. Maybe a key in there to use. Is he going to win the race? He's going to need that pace collapse. But I agree, Brian. It's likely to happen this year.
Yeah, and Hence really did run a big race in the Sunland Derby. I think that's not getting quite the ink that it deserves because it is the Sunland Derby. The Sunland Derby is not one of the big prep races out there, but he really made a big move on the far turn, and he rolled right on by horses. Conquest Mo Money gave him a little bit of trouble early in the stretch, and we saw, I think it's proven Conquest Mo Money now is a very good horse. We saw how well he ran in the Arkansas Derby. Of course, Irap was nowhere really to be seen in the stretch of the Sunland Derby, and he came back and won the Bluegrass. So that Sunland Derby performance all the way around, time, where he came from, how he did it, and who he beat is looking better and better. I think Hence, who may have been 30-1 a while ago, we might be looking at a horse who's under 20-1 now, but still good odds. There's a lot of horses to bet here, Matt. We're going down our list. I see you have Gervin 4. I have him 7. He's a horse with Mike Smith, who's done nothing wrong, coming off wins at Louisiana. That has to be bet. Always Dreaming, as we mentioned, McCracken, Classic Empire. I think Guna Vera gets a little money. We haven't mentioned Irish Warcry. I had him down at 8, and I was a little surprised to see that you also had Irish Warcry all the way down at number 8. Good horse. I don't really love him to win the Derby, but he wouldn't surprise me either.
Yeah, Brian. making the list, ranking horses. I'm writing horses down, and I keep looking back to Irish War Cry, and my reaction was I kind of felt like I should like him more than I ended up liking him in the top 10. And I think that's just a reflection of what she said. I would not be surprised to see him do very well in the race. He's trained by Graham Motion. He does the right things. Again, another horse that's going to be close-ish to the lead, stalking, and they all aren't going to come through. So it's kind of a little bit of a guessing game, or are some of them going to take back farther and like that a lot and make a big run? That might happen also.
Matt, I see you have something a little bit different than my list, of course, which we like. But you have the two top horses from the Louisiana Derby, Gervin at number 4, who I have 7, Patch at number 6. And Patch is a horse I would consider, although he's so lightly raced, the Derby has to be a little bit tough spot for him. You seem to like the Louisiana Derby, I think, more than most people that I've talked to.
Yeah, Brian, I like Patch in here. He's another one of those lightly raced horses that's going to have to deal with the Kentucky Derby, but many of the horses in here are lightly raced, and that's a kind of an X factor that we're all going to have to deal with a lot of our picks. But I think he's a horse that can get better, is getting better. I like the closing run in the Louisiana Derby, and if the pace is hot, here's a horse that, if he gets a good trip, could do big things. And he may be the other Pletcher in here who could make some noise. So I'm going to use him a lot in my trifectas and hope for a big run from him.
Yeah, the one-eyed horse, Patch, is definitely a horse on the move and an interesting horse in the Derby. I think I like him a little less simply because of his experience, although I did play him in the Louisiana Derby, and I was impressed because he had to wait a little bit before running on well down on the inside. Now, for me, the horse you're describing, Patch, I went the other way. I went with more experience. Looking at Lee before the Arkansas Derby, I said, I'm not sure what he's going to do. I'm not sure if he's going to get up for one of the big placings in the Arkansas Derby. But if he does, watch out for him in the Kentucky Derby. And he did, and I liked the way he looked in that race. Now, he's not officially in the top 20 yet. I imagine where he is, he's going to get into the Derby. I have a good feeling that he'll draw into the Derby. And looking at Lee, if you look at my list, Matt, I have him all the way up at 4. I think he's a horse, Golden Soul, commanding curve that is going to be for sure running. You know my feelings of how the race will be played out a little bit. So for me, looking at Lee is a big player. Now, I see you don't have him on the list. Is that because he isn't in the top 20 right now, or you don't like him as much as I do?
Yeah, I think it's a little of both. It's definitely a lot of the fact that he's not in the top 20 right now. I do like the race setup. The one thing that I don't like is that he kind of is one of those horses that slogs along and passes tired horses, and I don't know if I've seen enough of a turn of foot from him, but the race setup could be very favorable. But I agree, he's got a shot to get in the field, and if he does, then he's a horse that I'm probably going to use on the bottom of some wagers.
I think he will get in the field, Matt. I think he's got a great chance to get in. And he showed me enough in the Arkansas Derby. The kind of move he made in there was enough for me to say, yeah, that's a horse I want going a little bit farther in the Kentucky Derby. Another horse I was impressed with in the Arkansas Derby, again, Sonneteer, was sustained outside rally in the Arkansas Derby. He kept coming. He's a horse, he's a maiden, but he's a horse I think that can also get into the picture in the Derby. Now, one other horse that we haven't talked about that's on both of our top 10s, kind of a mystery horse, is Thunder Snow. Now, Thunder Snow is a big winner on turf and on dirt. Of course, those happened in Europe and Dubai. We're still not sure that he's coming for Godolphin. It seems like more than likely he will come over the Guineas in England. run a mile and a quarter on dirt. And I think both of us are afraid of Thunder Snow, and you can see that by both of us including him in our top 10.
Yeah, Godolphin has never won the Derby, and the UAE Derby winners have not fared particularly well in the Derby, but I think you and I both saw some things in his victory that we like. We liked his closing move. I liked his burst of speed down the stretch, Brian, that made his closing move so impressive and that allowed him to draw off from that field. Those two things together could be really beneficial with the pace. He's a horse that I think can get the 10 furlongs without any trouble. So if he's in there, I'm going to be interested. I also like Master Plan in there that rallied to third, but he's pretty far down the points list at this point.
Yeah, Master Plan probably won't get in. I'm also thinking Royal Mo is a long shot that I think has a shot. I was impressed with his Santa Anita Derby, coming from way outside, showing a lot of speed and sticking around. And I think he's a horse that could still be developing for John Sheriffs. He might not get in either. Sonneteer has a better chance, and looking at Lee has a great chance to get in. Thunder Snow, of course, just got up in that UAE Derby. He did roll the time before, and Thunder Snow showed some stubbornness down the stretch a little bit with changing leads and moving in and out a little bit. But once he got rolling, it was a nice finish at a mile 3/16. All right, Matt, we looked at a lot of good races leading up to the Derby. The Arkansas Derby was certainly a fun one, not only with the winner, but the horses who ran second, third, fourth, and fifth. Now we go to the Kentucky Derby. We have our top 10s. I think we might change this a little bit in the next few weeks, but not a lot. So folks at home watching, you can pretty well be assured that these are going to be our top horses. We are going to talk a little bit about some plays for the Derby in coming weeks, though, Matt.
Yeah, we certainly will. We'll have news, we'll have wagers, and post position draw. So stick with us for the next couple weeks, and please come to Horse Racing Nation. We already have a lot of interesting articles up. I did a full field analysis the other day. So everything you need to know about the Derby, HorseCenter, and Horse Racing Nation. And of course, I can't end the show without thanking our producer, Brett Workman.
Matt, Brett's not in the office today. We have a robotic chicken running things over there in the producer's desk. No, that's not true. Brett is. Oh, there he is. He's ringing the bell. He's very much here, and we always appreciate everything Brett does for the show. We also appreciate our sponsor, Derby Wars. Most of all, we appreciate you folks for watching HorseCenter every week. We love getting the comments, most of them good, some of them not so good. We appreciate those as well. And we especially meeting you at the races. We will be back with another Kentucky Derby edition of HorseCenter next week. Join us then.